There's a story told of a woman walking along a beach when she stumbled upon a genie's lamp. Wow, what a discovery. She picked up the lamp and she rubbed it, and behold, this genie appeared. And she was taken back a little bit, kind of surprised by what had happened, and she said, wait, do I get 3 wishes? Now, that would be standard for every genie, isn't it? Oh, the genie said, nope, I'm sorry. Due to inflation, due to constant downsizing and fierce global competition and low wages in third world countries, I can only grant you 1 wish. Okay, what will it be? Well, the woman thought for a moment. She said, well, I'd want peace in the Middle East. I'd love peace in the Middle East. Look, here's this map. You see these countries right here? I want them to stop fighting with one another. And I'd love to have them just come to a sense of harmony and unity with one another. And wait a minute. The genie looked at the map and exclaimed, lady, these countries have been at war with each other for years. I'm out of shape after being in a bottle for centuries. Now, I'm good, but I'm not that good. So I don't think that can be done. Make another wish. Just make another one. Okay, she thought for a moment. Well, I've never been able to find the right partner. You know, one that's considerate and fun, that loves to cook, and, that can clean the house or be just a good lover and gets along with my family and is faithful. And, actually, Jeannie, I just need someone I can understand. That's what I wish for. Someone I can understand, a good mate. Jeannie took a long sigh and shook his head and said, let me see that map again. Is it really that impossible for us to find someone we can understand, or us to be open to understanding? To be open to understanding. We're on this wonderful journey called the Season of Renewal here at City of Light. It's this next 6 weeks. We're going to be talking about some great attributes that we can embrace in our life that help to embrace and allow the wonderful power of divine flow, the goodness of God to flow freely in and through our lives. You'll find them listed in your Metropolitan News on the first page there of the news section. It says the first Sunday we're focusing on openness. Next Sunday we're talking about positivity as we celebrate 43 years of our ministry. On the 8th, we're talking about receptivity as we welcome Jason and DeMarco and really welcome that wonderful spirit of being receptive in worship and great music. On the 15th, we're talking about commitment as we have a membership class and a wonderful dinner on the grounds. And on the 22nd, Reverend Dr. Kathy Martin is going to be speaking on the attribute of trust. And then on the 29th, as we celebrate Palm Sunday, it is a thought and focus on the attribute of passion in our lives. We're talking about all these wonderful things to help us bring greater understanding, to acknowledge and to embrace what it is to have this divine flow in our lives, to remove all barriers, to remove anything that may be blockage, but just to welcome it to flow freely. And sometimes what it really takes is a journey of understanding, learning, experiencing something new and different. And it starts with a desire that our heart be completely open to all that is of God. It's kind of funny. We experience a lot of change in the world around us. And we do it best when we're open. Actually, that's right, when we're really open to the journey of understanding around us. We'll really say, wait a minute, I want to learn. I want to experience something new. I want to try something different. I want to be open to it so that I might really embrace it. For the world really hasn't changed around us. It's just that our understanding of what's going on has changed around us. We have finally come to agree that the world is not flat, but the world is round. Well, that came because of our understanding. Well, it took us a long time to come to that acknowledgement. The world has always been that way, always been round. But we misunderstood it, and our fear held us back from acknowledging it. Suddenly, when we realize, okay, wait a minute, we've got something new to experience and learn, we understand it, our world changes. No, our perspective changes. There's a lot of things that have changed in my life and in your life too. We can look back and say, oh, there's a lot of change going on, hasn't it? Anybody have those Throwback Thursday photographs thrown up on Facebook where you have those pictures of you 20 years ago that you posted up and everybody goes, ooh, you've changed. Ooh. you used to have hair. Whoa, you used to be thin. Whoa, and I hate that one when they say, you used to be good looking. Ouch, ouch. But we've all changed in some shape or form, but we realize that change is something that happens gracefully as we understand what's going on. So it is in our spiritual journey. I want to tell you this. God has never changed. God has never changed. God has always been this wonderful power and changeless authority. From the beginning and the end, changeless love. God has been this changeless light. God has been this truth that is everlasting. God is principle and always has been and always will. But we realize our understanding of God has changed, and it's evolved. We see it very evident as we read our Bible. How many of you read your Bible this week? Don't raise your hand because I don't want you to embarrass yourself. But I hope you have. Because you take it out as you wonder, this is the wonderful evolution of understanding. It's constantly telling us that God is ever speaking and unfolding new teachings for us. For as we look to some of the Old Testament stories, we find, ooh, that was a different kind of God. But same God, but just a different understanding. So we look at some of the Old Testament stories that maybe see God calling people to war. Oh, wait a minute. Then we look at some New Testament stories of Jesus calling us to peace. We see the fact that Jesus never fought, nor did he teach anyone to fight. He taught us that, as he said, blessed are the peacemakers. What a big difference from those stories of God saying in the Old Testament, go and kill, go and destroy everyone in this village, just kill all the animals, kill all the men and children, etc. We find many stories that kind of challenge us. And then we find New Testament stories where we see reference of Jesus saying, blessed are the peacemakers. In fact, Jesus modeled such peace that when they came to take him away, a captive, he never fought. He never once led armies or encouraged people to rise up and lead armies. He always embodied that spirit of peacemaking in each and every way. Did God change? Or did our understanding of God change? As Jesus began to teach us and show us a way, there was an unfolding of great wisdom and understanding in our world. And we begin to embrace a different kind of concept of God. The Old Testament God, we find some stories of fear and God of judgment. And then we look at New Testament way that Jesus spoke of God of love and grace. Wow. Did God change again? No. Our understanding did. In the realm of God, we've seen stories in the Old Testament of understanding that, God was somehow way off in the distance, maybe off in the heavens. And so they offered animal sacrifices to that distant God. And that although Jesus was a Jew and lived in Jewish culture, Jesus never offered a lamb or dove sacrifice, but instead teaches that the kingdom of heaven is here and now. Did God change? Our understanding of God changed. The Old Testament leads us to believe that God has chosen ones, or maybe favorite people, that some are better than the others. And then Jesus teaches us that there is no separation and we are all one. See, God doesn't change, but our understanding does. And it happens as we move in a spirit of openness. We begin to see, now I understand. Say it with me. Now I understand. Wow, what a beautiful point. This is the moments when those happen in our lives, where those lights go on, isn't it? There's great moments of excitement where you say, I get it, I understand it now. Because I struggled with something and I had a big challenge with something. And suddenly when you get to that place where you now say, I get it, it's so wonderful. It's exciting. Because so often what happens in our lives that we become people in our spiritual journey that we're bored. Bored. Honestly, have you been bored sometimes in your walk with God? Maybe even bored at church? Don't raise your hand. Bored in a class, bored in something at work, bored. And what happens, what we're really describing in our life when we're bored is we're stuck. It's like you're on a roller coaster. When it stops and you're sitting on the roller coaster, it's kind of boring, isn't it? But when it's moving forward, whoa, you're screaming and hollering, your hands are up, you're crying, you're yelling, stop, you're enjoying, you're laughing, whatever it is, it's a grand adventure. So what happens in our lives is sometimes we're bored. What we're really saying is we're stuck. and we're stuck spiritually. And how do we get stuck? It's because we're afraid. We're afraid of what's going on. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of what we're learning. We're afraid of what we're hearing, and we don't understand it, and so we're stuck. And we think we're bored because we're stuck and we're not moving forward. We're not advancing. We're not growing. We're just stuck because we're afraid. And the reasons that we're afraid is we just don't understand. I find so many times the things that you're really afraid of, you just don't understand. There's all kinds of people who handle snakes. They understand snakes. I'm afraid of snakes. I don't understand snakes. But when you understand them, well, you're not afraid of them. I have had all kinds of computer nightmares this past week. I don't understand computers. Yes, I'm afraid of them. I've had I can press a button and send something up to China real easily. I don't know how that happens. I can, make all kinds of choices on computers that seem to create milestones and blockages and whatever. I'm so grateful for those people who do understand. Because when you understand, the light goes on, and you're no longer afraid of something anymore. So what we find is that people are speaking out in fear. It's just they don't understand. And Jesus invites us to a greater understanding that happens through our openness in our spiritual lives. When we are afraid, the first thing we want to do is we kind of fight, or we involved in flight, where fear comes in, and our first emotion is that when we're afraid of something, we want to put up our dukes, we get in defense, we get a spiritual attitude in our lives that we think, I got to defend something, or we flee in a sense that we want to run. We often want to run to some sort of comfort. And true in life, that when you are afraid, you run towards those things that comfort you. Some of us run to the refrigerator, and we get that extra dose of mashed potatoes, and we load up the plate, and we find comfort in food, and others may find comfort, unfortunately, in alcohol or drugs or other things. Whatever it is that's a drug of our choice, we're doing it because we're simply afraid. So when we stop and say, I will fear no more. Say that with me. I will fear no more. Fear no more. I'm not going to be afraid. And what happens then, we work backwards from that. I am not going to be afraid. I am going to then understand. I'm going to learn. And as I learn, I'm removing that blockage of fear. And I am now getting excited. I'm no longer stuck. I'm advancing. And I'm not even bored. I'm thrilled at what's happening in my life. It's changing. And I love what's going on all around me. When we begin to take that journey and saying, I refuse to be afraid. Now, let me tell you this. In our life, we've got mountains that come up as challenges. And we look at these mountains all the time, and we're afraid of them. And we look to those mountains, and we say, this is a challenge, this is an obstacle in our way. And we call everybody, and we talk about it. We mill over it. We embrace it. We almost say, oh, you're not going to believe how difficult my life is and how challenging it is. When Jesus said, when you face a mountain, speak to it. Just simply say, be thou removed. I'm no longer afraid. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of this obstacle or challenge that may come before me, because it's no longer an obstacle. It's this opportunity for me to express my faith. And so what I'm going to do is not be afraid. I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to understand that what's before me is this wonderful divine opportunity to speak my truth, to speak that which I know, that God is at work and ever unfolding the good. So I'm not afraid, and I understand what's happening. And because I understand, I'm not stuck. I'm not stuck with an obstacle in my way. I'm excited about moving mountains and making changes. You see, what happens in our life is that when we take this perspective, we're not coming from a perspective of fear. We're coming from one of love, and that's a big difference. Because our world today, we quite often live from this whole perspective. We see everything of that which we're afraid because we don't understand it. But love says, I want to be open to learning it. Teach me. Show me. One of the most beautiful things that we can have in our character of our life is a teachable spirit that says, I want to learn. Just show me. In all aspects of life, if we walk into every encounter, every day of the living in our life, and we say, I'm teachable, I just want to learn. What will I learn today? And we embrace that wonderful spirit, that's how we embody openness that creates a moment of divine flow. For that teachable spirit teaches us that there is nothing to fear but everything to love. And I'm not afraid of it. For love removes fear, so understanding can unfold for us. How does understanding really rise up in us? How does it come forward? It comes through this heart of openness, the heart that seeks to know more today than it did yesterday. And I meet lots of times people who say, you know, Pastor, I've learned it all. I went to Bible school, or I went to Sunday school, or I've been in church all my life, or I was a preacher's kid, or I was this or that. You know, I got it. I know it all. And unfortunately, when we come to that place, when we say that and we have that perspective in life, we realize, wow, we've kind of closed the door to the divine flow of new understanding and new opportunities that want to come to our lives. Jesus calls us as disciples to be seekers, every day seeking something new. So a real spiritual life is to say, wait a minute, is there something new I can learn today? Something more? For love says, I want to know more about you. That's what love says. When you love someone, you don't just walk in and say, hey, I met you 5 minutes ago. I got your name. I don't need anything more. I think I know everything about you. There's some people who are that way. I don't find that very loving. Do you? But when someone says, I love you, says, I want to know every detail about you. Tell me your stories. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your growing up experiences. Tell me your visions and your dreams. Tell me your desires. What do you enjoy? I want to know all those kind of things because I'm excited. Love says, I want to know more. Love says, I want to remove barriers that have maybe created that. Well, I want to learn more because I'm maybe a little hesitant about going into a relationship, but the more I learn about you, the more I understand you, the more I love you. And how beautiful that is. So truly, if we love God, don't we want to know something more? Or do we just say, thank you, God. I know your name. I know your essence. Yeah, I got it done. I don't need to know anything more. You know, I got you all boxed in a cute little box, and I know exactly what you are and who you are and how it works. And God says there's so much more. There's so much more to unfold in this journey of understanding and learning. How beautiful it is that we can move beyond our literal black and white understanding and through love and openness to understand the very character of who and what God is. And when we do, we begin to understand that God cannot be boxed in. You can't confine God. In fact, we are encouraged time after time to never, ever box God in. Well, one of the 10 Commandments says, thou shalt have no graven image. In other words, don't create an image that boxes or defines all that of God, but set God free in your understanding. Be open to understand God in new and fresh and unique and different ways. That's why we embrace an understanding of God that says, God is not male alone or female. God is not a human being or filled with human attributes. But what we do know is God is love, and I don't know that everybody's cornered the market of full understanding around love. There's so much to learn, so much to know. So our life opens up in an understanding that says, I want to know more. I'm not going to box God in. I'm not going to confine God in. I'm going to seek to know more. And in this, we really embody the divine command for our lives and secret for divine flow. It says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Seek. To be open is to seek. To seek is to be open in our lives. For no one ever finds without seeking. Yeah, you lost your keys? You're going to try to find them without seeking? That's a real difficult task to do. You just sit there and say, somehow those keys will come to me. I don't know how. But when our life is open and we begin to seek, we're called on this wonderful journey of discovery, and we find what we're looking for. How powerful that is. So here today we have this gorgeous story. A beautiful story of Jesus coming to visit Mary and Martha. Coming to the home of these two wonderful women who offered great hospitality. And here is Martha. She's in the kitchen taking care of all the business of the day. She's cooking. She's preparing the meal, doing that which is culturally appropriate for the woman of that day. And there's Mary. She's there with Jesus and all the guys. chatting in the living room. I'm doing all the work, Martha says. What's going on here? Mary, come on, get in here. You know, we've got kitchen work to do. Someone's going to peel the potatoes. Who's going to make the matzo balls? Who's going to make the, who's going to, we've got all this wonderful stuff to do. Who's going to do all the cooking? Just me? And Jesus turns to Mary and says, let Mary be. She's sitting in the experience of learning. Scripture says Jesus was teaching, and she sat at the feet to learn. How powerful it is in our lives when we realize we're called to be seekers, open to learn. And that's the first and foremost attribute of our lives that we need to claim and own, to be that seeker. That's one who studies, that says, I want to know more, to allow that great wisdom and understanding to unfold. In fact, Jesus said, Mary, I know that hospitality is wonderful and we're all going to eat. We'll be fine. But Mary is here in this moment, and she is doing the greater portion, or that which is more important. For in ancient Jewish culture, the most important thing you could do is study. The greatest thing is if you could accumulate enough wealth that you didn't have to work and you could dedicate your life to study. Wow. You are committed to wisdom. You're committed to the unfolding of understanding and truth. How wonderful that would be. That would be the best. And Jesus, our great teacher, is there unfolding the wisdom for Mary in this scene. And Mary is saying, wow, I'm absorbing it all. And Martha's saying, wait a minute, no, you got work to do. We got to move on. We've got to do those things that are really most important. But what Jesus is saying, in essence, is allow Mary to just feast in this moment of understanding and learning. I'm offering bread, not physical bread. But what did Jesus say? I am the bread, right? I'm the bread of life. And what is bread but that which nurtures and strengthens? What Jesus is saying, the very way that I teach, all that I'm sharing for you is that which nurtures and strengthens your spirit and soul. So take the time to sit and learn. Take the time to study. Take the time to discover new understanding, because what I'm giving you is bread. I'm breaking new understanding for you. I'm offering you something that nurtures and strengthens your life far more than the physical food would. Because we can certainly see that, well, the physical food that we have in our life, it comes and goes. But the spiritual nurturing that we take, it's bread of life. It stays with us. It sustains us. It holds us. So as we become students of understanding the truth of Jesus and his teaching, our lives are transformed. We're changed. It's an everlasting change that comes about within our lives. You ever encounter those people who just haven't had their daily bread, their daily understanding, their daily truth unfolded to them? They haven't had a daily dose of their bread. It's like that Snickers commercial. Do you ever see that Snickers commercial that's all around, and there's this person and they're grumbling and complaining, and they said, Frank, have a Snickers bar, because when you get hungry, you don't act appropriately. You act out of context. And so it is that they handed the Snickers bar, and they begin to eat, and they're changed. It's a beautiful analogy, what Jesus was saying. Mary, sit, learn, have your daily bread today. The bread of new understanding and the teaching that's imparted that I'm sharing today. Take some and eat, and as you do, your life is transformed. And you know what? You're going to come to find and discover that as you feast on the goodness and understanding, your fears are diminished. But you come to an understanding that you eat and partake in a sense of oneness and unity with one another. That's why when Jesus imparted a communion meal, that Last Supper, he broke what? Bread. He broke bread with them and said, take and eat. And I want you to take and eat this in remembrance of me. I'm breaking the bread of new understanding for you. I've been parting truth. I've been teaching you and working with you disciples. I have been working with you, and I'm traveling with you all this time. And now, most importantly, what I want you to do is to break bread with one another and eat in a sense of oneness with one another. And eat this bread of new understanding that unfolds the truth that you remember for each and every day of your life. For to remember this teaching takes you to a place of great love and great compassion. To remember this teaching brings you to a place of great understanding that removes all your fears. And you need not flee or run or fight, but simply you love and you embrace in that sense of lovingness. And you do so in a way that your life is transformed. You're not stuck, but you're moving forward. You see, that's the feast of love that Jesus shared with us and invited us to partake of in such power. So we remember this. And in Jesus' words saying that there is an openness that comes to your life that will create a divine flow. And you know what? So often in God's wonderful Spirit, that openness, that divine flow, that openness to saying, Jesus, the bread of life, Jesus, the bread of new understanding that takes us to unfold your great wisdom, it comes to us. The Spirit speaks to us. And there are great moments in our life of great revelation that happen, where we have these God thoughts, like, oh, wow. A synchronicity happens. Sort of this consciousness happens, like, oh, it's the Spirit of God speaking and unfolding for us greater understanding. So what I want to share with you today is, as we open our lives to a divine flow, as we open ourselves to a divine love, as we open ourselves to a divine understanding, something wonderful pours from in and from without. It pours in a wonderful flow, and that is the goodness of God. I invite you now to welcome an open spirit that says, I want to learn, I want to understand. And I could be remiss if I didn't mention classes that we have that are there for your spiritual understanding. Reverend Linda's got a class at 10 o'clock on Thursday mornings that are going to help you with divine flow. It is launched in a wonderful intention to help you to receive understanding, that you need not be afraid, but to see the goodness and understand the goodness of God. She offers another class on Tuesday nights that is open for people, a women's focus, and we encourage everyone to come and experience that. Wednesday night, there's a class. At 7 o'clock, I'm teaching. 10 o'clock and Sunday mornings, Reverend Claudia is teaching a class. Why are we offering all these classes, and why so many? There's a lot of churches that have no classes at all. Why? Because we're unfolding an opportunity for the divine flow to happen in your life as you move to greater understanding. God's not changing. But as we come to understanding, we evolve, we change, we come to new awareness. And we come to these places where we need not be afraid anymore, but we simply just learn this very power, the divine flow of love. Amen.
Like a mountain stream, and let your love grow. The smallest of dreams, and let your love show. And you'll know what I mean. It's a season. And let your love